Okay, so this is a basic Google Analytics page, and there's a couple. I'm going to show you just the general overview of how it works, and we'll dive in and answer some of these questions. But very briefly, pardon the back of my head. You're always going to have the same basic layout. There's this dashboard down the left where you can choose all your different options. These are all called reports. You're always going to have some pretty little chart here showing lots of numbers over a period of time, which you can set up over here. You can set it for as long or as short as you want. I often find it helpful to change the time period. So this is by day, but you can change it, for example, by week. I often find that much more useful to see, because otherwise it's bouncing up and down all the time. You're always going to, or if you're a business site, you often get lower traffic on the weekends, and this sort of evens it all out. And you can also, and I mean, Google gives you just endless amounts of information that they think is relevant for you. And some of the things, they break it down into categories. So audiences tells you what kind of people are coming to your site. So for example, if location is important to you, you can start getting all these types of numbers. A very interesting one in behavior is called engagement, and it shows you how long people are spending on your site. It tends to be longer is better. It's a nice one. Traffic sources tells you where the traffic came from, right? That's one of the most important questions, and this gives you a quick breakdown. The main thing, search traffic, is usually traffic from Google. Referral traffic is from other third-party websites. That's going to be the links to your website. Direct traffic means they typed in the URL directly, or maybe they came from an email, for example, but they didn't come from a third party, they didn't come from Google. And then campaigns is when we talked about doing email yesterday. When you, for example, if people came from an email campaign that you registered, then they'll know that it came from a campaign. And so those are the main types of options. There are other things, but these are the four big ones.
Wow.
Content is a great way to see what's happening on the different URLs of your website. So you can see here that the pages, when you have a little slash, that means that's the root directory, right? So just stickyworld.com. You can see all the page views and the percentages and so forth. And you can dig deeper into all of that. Some nice things you can do here is you can look at the queries, which are the keywords that people used. So if you want to dig a little bit deeper into search. Oh, so yeah, you have to link it. The keywords they used to get to your site. So you have to link this particular one up to Webmaster Tools, which will give you some good information. And then the last big thing is conversions, which is we'll talk about goals, and we're going to set up a goal today. But once you start having goals, so all information is basically meaningless without goals, and goals are the things that we put up on the board, right? Register for a service, schedule an appointment. All the other numbers are just numbers. They don't really help guide your decisions. But once you add goals to those numbers, now they start having a lot of good information. So that's the very first thing we're going to do.
Can I ask a question on queries?
Yes.
So it will show me the words.
Yes. Let's. I'll show you.
Basically, this would be an indication. If I want to have a campaign on Google AdWords, then this would be an indication of what words I should use or not use, right?
It'll show you what traffic Google's already sending. So I'll just show you quickly. There's two ways to get the same information, and this you can get it directly. Google is keeping track of the keywords that are sending to your site. So for example, here we can see Sticky World hit. Someone types in stickyworld.com, Sticky Space World, and you see all sorts of different keywords. Etsy, Sticky World, and so these are keywords. One major problem is it's not provided. If as a user you're logged into any Google property, it could be Gmail, it could be calendars, it could be docs, any of those things, Google won't pass along your keyword when you search for something, which is a major, major, major headache. Really annoying. If you plug it into Webmaster Tools, it'll slightly mitigate that problem, and you can start seeing some more of the queries, although it's still not perfect.
Why do we do that?
Yeah, because Google Analytics only gives you aggregate information. It won't give you information on a specific user, and they're worried that if a Google user is logged in and then searches, you'll be able to basically track back to that Google ID. I don't know how, but I'll take it on face value that it's possible. So
if somebody, just to understand, if somebody's logged into the Gmail account and has another tab open and searches for your site, you don't get the information of what they were searching for.
That's correct.
So it's not even in the aggregate?
It's in the aggregate. Oh, but you see it says not provided right there. And this is a big deal. Because look, of the 218 visits that came from keywords, 80 you don't know about. That's more than a third, right? And that's really, search marketers are very, very challenged by this because you can't get the information if you use Google Analytics. And Google Analytics powers almost everybody. So this is a major issue. If you type this into Google, not provided, you just endless results of people complaining about it. There's one trick that you can do, which essentially hacks it so that you get the landing page that they landed on. And so you can kind of get a sense based on the landing page what they might have typed in. It's a small little hack, which doesn't really help that much, but it helps a teeny bit. But the answer is, it's frustrating, and there's not much we can do about it. In fact, nothing we can do about it, except buy a bigger package where it's not Google providing it, then you can take the data. But for the time being, I recommend linking in Webmaster Tools because it'll give you better information than what's here. But let's start with goals. Nope, that's not the right button.
Garrett, sorry,
Yes.
can you back up for that part where we had all the backslashes on the different pages? All of these overall things are just going to your main website, is that correct?
Yes, so you see all these URLs?
Yeah.
All that slash means is it says stickyworld.com/,
Yeah.
and then these are all the pages.
Okay, and can you do any more data based on just these specific pages?
Yes, you can
Okay.
do. I mean, you can do unlimited data. But for example, if we clicked on this, we could.
Okay, then it gives you what?
Yeah.
This
So
is the
navigation
information
summary is
about-
really nice. This tells you where they came from. This is where they go after that
Okay.
one. Yeah, you can find endless amounts of information on any specific piece of content.
Okay, so you can go deeper into a website
You
rather
can
than that first.
Yes, that's just an overview.
Okay.
All right, but let's have a quick look at goals. So we're going to create a goal. And Google just created this, which I haven't, maybe it was last week that I saw it. I was just setting up a goal for one of the startups I work with in Paris. And this is the first time I saw it. So I'm not entirely sure when they launched it, but pretty recently. Previously, it looked like this, custom, and this is the one that I'm most familiar with, where you essentially type, there's 4 types of events, and mostly you use destination. Most of these things will be a destination because you're trying to get the user to a specific URL. Say it again?
So it's an action to destination? It was a registration or a purchase?
Right, so for example, if you register, usually what you pop up is a web page that says thanks for registering. And then what happens is, we'll walk through this example in just a second. We're not going to do it in class because I'm not familiar with it since it's so new, but Google is sort of saying we really think that these are the things that most people tend to do. Right, signing up, downloading, referring, all the different things that are on the board. But first, well, hey, let's try it. Why not? We can learn together. So what's the first thing? Register for a service. So let's say, which one looks good? Sign up. Right, subscribe to a newsletter or join a group. Or which one? Or acquisition?
Acquisition, create an account.
Create an account. Okay, let's see what happens. This looks exactly the same. Well, who knows? Maybe they just fill in the name. Oh, that's really helpful. Anyway, the main, there's 4 main things. I'll just quickly, destination, everything in Google Analytics runs on URLs, right? So for example, we saw before on the Sticky World website, it said like account info or something. So anything that appears, we can just do this. I'll show you really quick. We'll just pull up the website.
Yeah, go to free trial page. That's the page we want to get into.
Okay, so for example, this would be the home page, and then you would say, okay, we want the free trial, right up here on the right. We click free trial, and now you can see this URL change, right? It says stickyworld.com/signup. So that would be the second stage. That would be the second step you want them to do. If we fill this all out, we'll expect back a thank you form.
Yeah, I'll get an email and I'll be on.
All right, so let's do it. Well, let's just do it for a second so we can see.
I'm using Groovy forms, but for a strange reason I can't see the action.
We don't need that.
That's the button we want you to
Submit.
Now that we used to automate it with the straight in the Sticky World, but what we done recently is trying to talk to customers more.
Okay. So the problem that you have now is that we didn't change this URL. I'm not sure what maybe in the form. So it's going it says thank you for signing up, but we're not going to actually be able to track it because it's the same URL. So this is the sort of the downside of analytics is if it doesn't have a URL, you have to track it with an event using JavaScript, which is way beyond my technical abilities.
So I can get analytics on the forms actually from Root anyway. But
Yeah. So then the problem is it's not really integrated.
The goal is I want people to hit the free trial button and land on this page that you just
Right.
went on.
So we'll start with just that because it's a little bit easier to conceptualize. So we want them to create an account so the four main things, a destination is a URL. We talked about duration. Someone said, who said time spent on URL? Yeah, I think you did, right? Yeah, so now this is the button you would use. If you say we want them to spend 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that's a goal. Pages per visit, right? So you could say if someone goes deep into the website and hit 10 pages, we don't care how long it takes them. We just want them to go through a certain number of pages. And then an event, events have to be triggered by JavaScript, which your technical person will set up for you. I don't really understand it, but essentially what that means is when a page is loaded, for example, when we just submitted that form, the URL didn't change, but your web developer could put in a thing that said the form was just submitted, and then we could track that. But it's nicer to use everything based on URLs unless you have a technical person you can work with all the time, because then it doesn't require any technical expertise. So it's a lot easier.
So technically, if we had done a new page account that said thank you, then we could just do it via destination.
Yep. So this should say exactly. If this said thank you,
okay,
then we can track it.
Okay. And with an event, is that like also clicking like into a YouTube video or something like that?
Yeah, so often what people do with events and YouTube videos, let's say the video is 1 minute long.
Yeah.
They'll set the YouTube video to trigger an event every 10 seconds. So you can say how many people watch it through 10 seconds, how many people watch it through 20 seconds, how many people watch it through 30 seconds. And there's Google Analytics has a whole website about how to set up events.
Okay,
It's
so
a lot
an
of
event
code.
is just any going to external things, but it's...
It does have to be external things. It could just be something happens. What's that?
What are other examples of events?
It's really hard to come up with them off the top of my head,
Okay.
but it's based on examples.
Video as well. So
Yeah, video is a good one. Submitting a form is another popular one. Often, for example, a lot of people use tags on their websites, and the tag won't show in the URL. So you're like, show me all posts that are tagged with this. That doesn't show up in the URL. But then you could use an event to say every time someone hits a tag, it triggers the event. But for now, we're going to do the most simple thing, which is a destination. Right? So we're just going to pretend for a moment that there was a thank you page because it'll make it a little bit easier to conceptualize. So what you do is you copy just the last page, the destination page, and you put it into here. Destination equals this. Depending on how you want to do it, sometimes you can also say, you can change it, doesn't have to be exactly equals to. You can use a regular expression, or you can say begins with. But for now, we know exactly what page it is. But if for example, you might have stickyworld.com and something else.com, or whatever it happens to be, maybe it's like thank you 1, thank you 2, thank you 3, but you want to track it all together, you can use regular expressions, which is just a simple way of saying you can replace things with, I'm blanking on the word. It could be anything there. Right, so for example, if you put a star, if you use a regular expression and then said, for example, star here, star could be anything. So it could say thank you 1, thank you 2, thank you 3, or so forth. So you could track all of them at the same time. Value is good because it tells us how valuable it is. How valuable it is for someone to submit something. And this is so. Imagine someone signs up with you, a typical customer. How much money do you make from that? Give us a number. It doesn't matter.
Customer lifetime value
Sure.
is $2,500.
Okay, so $2,500. And how many people who register for free convert into a?
It's not talking about that for us at the moment. So how many people who go through trials are converting?
Yeah. Just
quite a high number.
so let's say it's 50%. Right. That would mean the value of someone submitting the trial would be $1,250. Right. Because if they convert, and half of them do, they would be worth $2,500. So 1 out of every 2 is worth $1,250. This is not going to go money into your bank account, right? It's just a way for you to keep track. And then funnel is really nice. Funnel is the last thing, and what that does is it shows us the steps that someone takes to get where you want them to in the idealized world. So let's go back here for a second. What's the page before thank you? It's the sign up page, right? So we'll take that. You don't have to take the same as in analytics, you don't have to take the stem, you just take the page. So we take that, and we say this is the sign up form, and we give them the URL. Then we add another step, and we say this is the home page. Oh, sorry, it's backwards. This is step 2.
Yeah, exactly. So
And this-
basically you're describing a funnel here, page by page.
Just describing the funnel page by page. Yep.
And I can describe several.
You describe as many as you want. Definitely.
They're different sequences, so I could learn whether people are going to learn about the specific solution first, or see custom testimonials, and then sign up.
Yep. You can check all of it. You can
And
follow their
work
path.
out which one's the most popular or
And that tells you where to develop your content.
where should content
Okay. So there we go. You can-
So if you think there are many different ways to get there, do you have to then put out those different pages into Tracker for this event, or how does that work?
So there's 2 things going on. One is if there's many ways to get there, as long as they reach the destination in this example, it'll trigger a goal, and so the goal will go up by 1. If you want to see are people actually following this funnel, you set up the funnel page, and it'll show you. We won't be able to see it now. We can look at another funnel so you can see what it looks like. But what it'll do is it'll say, it'll show you how many people went step by step, and it'll show you where they entered and where they exited in the funnel. So idealized funnel, everyone would enter at the top and come out the bottom. That's not really how the world works. People will jump around your website all over the place. So you say, but if most people aren't entering, that means maybe you need some different content or a different setup, or make the buttons bigger. This will be the information you can use to optimize.
So let me ask it differently. So the minimum funnel here is to be on the homepage and then sign up.
Yep.
But people may
might,
they need to go to 8 different places before they.
they might.
Yes, I do.
That's exactly
How
right.
do you figure that out? Same is that due to
So
the
what-
funnel, or?
So what would happen, for example, let's say we came to stickyworld.com, and we said, oh, this is really interesting. We scrolled around, and I don't know if there's anything else to click on. But yeah, so let's say we want to learn some about some examples, like testimonials are first. We could say, okay, cool, this is really nice. And then, we'll click through this, and then once eventually we're convinced.
It's not
It's
here.
internet,
Yeah, and then we'll come here, and what it would look like in our funnel is it would show them entering, not from the homepage, it would show them entering the funnel at this stage. And it'll show you from where. And you'll say, oh, well, that's funny. It looks like, for example, half the people came from category examples beforehand. So maybe we want to change things around. It looks like people want examples before they get. So now let's add examples into the funnel. And it'll also affect our website design, because you saw we had to go all the way to the bottom to get these examples. But if everyone's going there because that's what they're looking for, maybe when we hit our homepage, right, well, maybe we should put examples right here. But you see, there's nothing to click here. Right, so maybe we want to move examples up. But that kind of information will help you decide what goes on your website where.
It's actually the third thing. The big thing to see
Oh, yeah.
is the B2 SaaS is this thing called pricing, which we have done but we haven't published yet.
Okay.
And that we think when we publish that one, we'll see different results in there.
Because then what you'll probably see is maybe people enter the funnel after they look at pricing.
I just proved it to myself because you suggested I do live chat, so I went to a live chat site. The first page I went to was pricing.
Yeah.
Because I know what live chat is. I think one of our problems is people don't even know what's the
That seems likely. That's okay. That's the whole point of creating content. And you want to create the content in a way that makes it as easy as possible to understand. So I'll give you another example of a website that I worked on. And every website I work on ends up looking exactly the same, because I think this is the best. This is the best way to do it, and because people are really familiar with it. Okay, the basic elements of what I consider to be a good website. Logo in the top left, menu bar across the right. Top right is the contact us button, or the main thing that you expect people to do, because that's where people look. Right? Remember, people start at the top left and read across the top. I always put a video here with a very, very brief explanation. What does ColdSpace do, based on 3 seconds of looking at this website?
It's collaborative office space, to share office space.
Yeah, that's it, right? It's right there. So in 3 seconds, you can decide whether or not this is something that you're interested in. And if you are, what's the thing you're most likely to do when you hit this page?
Press that.
Yeah, press the play button, which we can do because it's super fun.
It's super fun, not very honest.
No, yes. Let's see if this works.
Helps
Oh, yeah,
helps remote people collaborate more efficiently to really get results.
Yeah, this is closer.
Is it a platform to plan your advertising campaigns?
Exactly what it is. So if you're in the advertising planning world, you would find this video super funny, which is weird because it's not. But when people saw it, it's like, oh my god, it explains my problem so well.
That's the part of information.
Yeah, exactly, with all the errors on it. Which is the whole point. You guys are not in the media planning space, so it's not that exciting for you, but it's not supposed to be. But nevertheless, the lessons you can learn from it are people want a little video that explains it because they don't want to read a ton of stuff. If it's an interesting video with some music that explains everything with no words, it's even better, right? You just get a feel for what's going on. And then usually what happens are people either click contact us because they know they want to contact us, or they go down here and they learn a little bit more about our product. You might notice everything is above the fold, right? You don't have to scroll for anything, which is huge. But if you do want to, then there's some stuff down here, but no one ever clicks these buttons, not surprisingly. That's it. So our funnel usually looks like this. We have an event trigger when they start the video. We know that they're going to click on contact us, right? And you can see up here, there's the new URL. Right? People fill out the form, or they call us, and when they call us, there's something we can do. You can't track it anymore. But if they fill out the form and click submit, then we can track it.
Can you track if they click the email button and it goes into like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. If you can track an email, I think probably not because
It doesn't have it.
because this goes off-site.
Yeah, it goes to their.
It goes to their email.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can track it. I think probably not in analytics.
That'll be an exit.
No, because they're not leaving the. Well, I guess if they open up, usually it opens up their email on a different page. Exit only is when they actually when they leave this page. So I don't know the answer to that question. I think probably not though. It might be that you can track it with an event, right? Because you can click the button, but I don't know. So anyway, so this is what I consider to be like the ideal standard for a business-to-business page, or any kind of page really. This is business-to-business.
And we really tested speech against no speech in the video.
I have not tested it. I just prefer it.
I think it's far better. It's awful. You're at work and you're switching something. That's for work even. And you press play, and then everyone's yelling at you. And
I mean, a lot of people have it. I mean, I don't think it. We didn't do it because it requires a lot more resources to develop 2 videos, and you need enough traffic to make it worthwhile. And this is such a specialized thing that we did more informal testing by just showing it to our clients. Our existing clients said they liked it, and then so we put it on the website. It wasn't particularly rigorous.
So I was just curious, you said you recommend no speech.
Yeah, I recommend it just because on the homepage, you can if you come here to learn more about it, and so you can watch videos. These are full of speech. I'll just show you in a second. But that's after they have a feeling for what ColdSpace
Matthew
is all about.
Greenhouse is the CEO and founder of ColdSpace.
Right, so anyway, there's lots of videos that explain it better. Those definitely have words. But the whole point is at the beginning, if you can have some sort of emotional reaction, or people can just kind of feel what's going on, it'll be a lot easier than overwhelming them with, and we do this functionality, we do this functionality. We wanted to get across 2 points in the video. The video's first one was stop making mistakes in the entry of all this data. And the second point was, what did it say? No, I can't remember. It's definitely be more transparent and I guess maybe more efficient. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it happens in the cloud, it's cool. So. But the main thing was stop making mistakes. I can't remember. Wow.
Collaborative?
Yeah, it's collaborative. I don't know. We had a mission, and I'm blanking what it was. Too bad. But it totally accomplished it, I'm sure. But let's get back on topic, which is we created a goal that tracks a destination URL. Another main one that's up here. Almost everything here is going to hit a URL. Register for a service, schedule an appointment, purchase an item, download an app, submit an email. Will all have some sort of URL structure. For time spent, it's just the second button. Right, duration, and we'll say. And then we just tell them how long we want it to be. So we can say, let's say greater than 3 minutes.
Maybe next time you spend with them actually playing with the design tool. Is that right?
Yeah, and I suppose that'll be on a specific URL. So we probably wouldn't be able to track what they're doing.
Yeah.
But as long as they're on that URL, we assume that that's what they're doing.
Okay. But you can also try, your engineers will be able to set up an event for that, right? So especially if it's in a tool, so the URL is not changing ever, you'll just say, okay, when they load up this Flash or whatever it happens to be, they'll start keeping track of it using an event, right? And then what you would do is you would just
And that's all within Google Analytics.
Yep. So you go here and you send an event. Oops, sorry. Right, and these category action label value are set in the event tracking structure, which is all part of the JavaScript code. And then anyway, you would just type them in, and then you start keeping track of that. What would happen after you have everything set up is when you go back to your site, you could just track goals, right? Which unfortunately we haven't had any goals yet completed, but there will be at one point, I'm sure. But more interestingly, what you can do is tie goals to other things that are happening on your site. So for example, registering for a service. So I want to show you this. You can cheat. You can use this. And so there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff, more than me. And you can just take their ideas. Right, so, and you can add these reports so we can look at all of them. So content efficiency is all what we're learning about, right? Which is based on the content, how many goals do you get? So for example, let's say you had a blog post that you posted up and you thought, oh, I wonder how effective this blog post is at converting people into free trials. What you do is you click here. Oops, you have to be on the right place. Because you can set up all the reports on your own, but it's an awful lot of work for very little return. You can just copy paste them. So this is my cheat. So for example, if we want it, you click here. I think this will add it in now because we're in the right place. Let's see what happens. Yes, okay. So we'll add it to the one that we're interested in. It's called the Content Efficiency Analysis Report. And what it does is it's going to link in your goals. So unfortunately, we don't have any traffic yet, so we can't look at it. But what would happen is it'll tell you, here's the page title, right? And then at the end, you can see goals. So for example, if you put up a new blog post, say how effective is it at turning people into registering for my service, now we'll know. Very, very helpful. It's hard to see because there's not data.
Yeah,
Here,
how would you...
So,
the page title, is that your blog post? Or
yeah, so this is pulling in all the information automatically. So you remember when we looked at, for example, here? We're in the right place. Yeah. Okay, so for example, it tells you index PHP got 144 views. But 144 views is interesting. Of those 144 views, how many of them did something that we actually wanted, right? So if you could click on it, and we have all this information, but you can see there's nothing that says goals here. And that's the really critical piece of information that we're trying to tie this page to our goals, which we wrote down on the board. This custom report makes that, where'd it go? We added to the wrong thing. Oh, website data. Which is the one we want to be using? This sticky row, not blog or website. Okay. I think I added it to the wrong thing. Let's try this again. So it's this one, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now we have information that makes it a lot better. So unfortunately, none of these things achieved the goal because, not surprisingly, the goal wasn't activated yet. But eventually what we can do is we have all these different pages. For example, examples might be eventually a powerful tool for us. When people hit examples, then they go on and complete the goal. So eventually what this will tell you is based on your URLs, what's going on. It's a really, really powerful tool. And that's all it's doing in the back end is it's filling out all these columns with data, and you can create that report yourself if you wanted to. But it's just a lot easier to use this tool. Yeah, not set means, oh no, this one here just means that for whatever reason the URL doesn't have a title. But that's literally just, in WordPress you just have to create a title. It's not, I don't know why on this website it's not there. It's just, yeah, I mean, who knows? Or it might be something because it's not, they're not all different PHP, I don't know, it's backend stuff. So I can't really help you. But when you create, for example, a blog post, it'll have a title, obviously, because all blog posts have titles, and then it'll pop up just fine. And that's the basics of how you use analytics. You set up a goal, go grab one of these reports that are relevant. I highlight this one in particular. If you Google, you'll find millions and millions of people suggesting the reports. This one is the best that I found, and it's a URL right here on your sheet. So you can just go there and have a look. You can have millions and millions of reports. My recommendation is have 1 or 2 or 3 that really drive it. What you can do, the nicest thing to do once you get a report, is you add it to your dashboard. You don't want to, it's really, really fun to come into a website like analytics and start clicking around, looking at all the things, right? Because it's you're like, wow, there's all this data, it's so much fun. But it's not going to actually help you make any decisions, which is the whole goal. But when you use reports like this, it'll help you make decisions because you'll see which content is actually meeting your goals, right? The content that's working for you, make more of that. The content that's not working for you, you know that's not what your customers are interested in.
From analytics, can this ever look at something from a third-party website coming in, or is it only on your own URL?
Thank you for asking. That's another one of the top ones. So, right, which websites are sending you the best traffic? Let's take a look. Click here to get the link analysis report. Let me make sure I add it to the right thing. This one, right? Yeah, it's the first one. Okay. So once again, it saved us all the trouble. It shows us the source, what page they eventually hit on, right? So this is for, I'm not sure why it's doing this, but it's showing your subdomains as referral traffic. I don't know why it's doing that, but let's just pretend that these things were offsite, right? It's something else entirely. They would link to you, and this would say whatever it happened to be, right? And then you can see how many, once again, how many goals and so forth.
But
Does that answer the question?
Work with like social media, like
yep, because this will,
okay.
the source will say Facebook, or the
Okay.
source will say Twitter, or whatever it happens to be. But there are also, I believe there's a social media specific one. Yeah. So you can, if you don't want all referrals, but you want just to see how your social media properties are doing, you can, social media is essentially just a subset of referrals traffic.
Does that actually show you down to the individual Twitter handle? Or does it
No, because I don't know, don't take my word for it, but I don't believe Twitter passes in the Twitter handle. It just shows you that someone clicked on it, and the referral source is Twitter. Yeah, but I don't think it passes in the handle. So these 7 ones are more than enough to get you started. So I recommend taking a look at it, adding these reports to your site. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can come in here and play around with it and see how they work for you. But the basic flow is make sure your URLs are set up properly, so that you don't ever lose where your users are going. And then the next thing you do is set up goals, right? Based on the goals that we have here, they're almost universally destinations, right? You want your user to get to a specific destination. I'll show you what a funnel looks like in a second. And then the last step is to add in these reports, which will show you how well your content's working, how well your referral traffic is working, and the basic main topics. If you ever have a question that's not answered by one of these 7 reports, your first step would just be go to Google and say Google Analytics report on whatever it happens to be. Once you become familiar enough with analytics, you can start building these reports yourself. But I find that there's almost never a need to, because there's always someone who spends a lot more time on analytics and they'll build a good report for you. So lean on their knowledge. And that's the basics of analytics. I want to show you one other thing, but now I'm blanking what it was. There was a question a minute ago. You didn't answer it already? Oh, sorry, yeah, dashboards. So rather than going in and clicking around all the time, you can say, let's say this content efficiency analysis report is really important. You click it, add to dashboard. We'll just throw it in the main dashboard. Where are we? Oh, here it is. Right, so this shows you where people came from, and then your goal completions are here. Right, so rather than going and looking all over the place for the data or going back to that report every single time, you can add anything you want to your dashboard. And then Google will give you 10 or 12 basic ones to start with, and you can delete them or leave them depending on how useful they are. My main recommendation, because it's all free, is just go in and start playing with it. But keep in the back of your mind that it's all about goals, right? It's not just, you're not just there to have feel-good numbers. It's what's actually driving revenue and traffic. Okay, any questions? Yeah.
How does it work when you are looking into like a PayPal site or something where they're actually purchasing?
Off-site?
Yeah.
So then your funnel would end when they go off-site.
Okay.
And then, how can you track if they buy? That's a good question. At some point, you have to do it manually. So what you would do is you would have all your analytics, and then you would have a spreadsheet that you're making outside of analytics, and then you would import the data from PayPal, import the data from analytics, and build a spreadsheet.
Okay, that is.
And then, there's definitely web services that do similar things, but at the beginning, just do it yourself on Excel. And you can just have the field which would say, source and all the things that you find from analytics, and then when they go offsite, PayPal will trigger it when they pay, and then you can add that data back in.
What if it's just something like Amazon or Woodstone, something like that? So you're sending them off to buy the book,
Yep.
whatever it is.
Yep.
They go off and they buy the book at Amazon.
Yep.
How do you track that? Say they've gone to Amazon, but
yeah,
you track the sale.
So it's not going to be perfect. Using Google Analytics won't be perfect. But for example, what you can do in that case is when they go offsite, they can go through a bit.ly link. And then what you'll have to do is once again plug the different data sources together inside an Excel, for example. And you'll have all your data from analytics, and you'll take your data from bit.ly, and you'll take your data from Amazon, and string it together as best you can. One common complaint is first people go, wow, it's so awesome, I can track everything. And then once they get into a little trouble tracking things, they're like, oh, screw it. It doesn't matter anymore. We can only do the things we track, which is true, that you can only improve things you can measure, but don't only measure things that you can measure perfectly, right? At some point, you still have to use your human intuition to say, these people came to the site, then this page was really good at driving people to my Amazon page, and then there's this many purchases. Amazon doesn't break it down by saying what the source was. So you'll have to take best guesses, saying, so bit.ly said there was 100 clicks through, and around those times people bought, and it looked like there's 20 purchases from those 100, and so now you're starting to make rough estimates, make those rough estimates, and then try to improve them over time. But don't say, because I can't track it perfectly from beginning to end, well then then I can't do anything. It's a little silly, a little defeatist. But yeah, it won't be perfect. But then you build it together in your Excel spreadsheet. The nice thing about doing that is, what I do in my work is you'll take all the data from the disparate sources and plug it into a line in the Excel spreadsheet, and then you track it over time, which is really cool. So you say, in week 1, I got 100 hits on the website with 20 hits on my bit.ly link with 5 purchases on Amazon. Is it exactly a perfect funnel like that? Probably not, but it's more or less. And in week 2, I got this many hits and this many purchases, right? You're picking out the important data points. Here, no point in doing that. Just do it right here.
This is a bit weird part. I'm really not sure.
I'll explain it right now. Let's say you're building, let's just say that you have a blog that talks about your book. You have a bit.ly link going out. And then you have an Amazon page where people can buy, right? This is called a funnel, right? In theory, people can enter and exit from any point in the funnel, but most people will go through this funnel before they buy the book, right? So this is going to be analytics. This will be bit.ly, Google Analytics. This will be bit.ly Analytics. This will be Amazon Analytics. What you do when you create your spreadsheet this is week 1 or month 1 or day 1. You'll say how many visits do I have to the blog, right? And we'll say 50. And you get that information from analytics. And then you'll say how many people clicked to Amazon. Yep. And then bit.ly will say 25, right? And then when you go to your Amazon analytics, it'll say books sold, and it'll say 8. right? And then week after week, you'll keep track of this. All right, and there's eventually, depending on what scale you get to, I'm sure there's software tools that automate this in some way or another. But for now, I actually think it's good to do it by hand because it keeps you on top of what's going on in your business. Right, so the next week you'll be 75 and 30 and 12 and so on and so forth.
So your Bitly link there is to the Amazon
Page.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Could you also then say, well, I know from my Amazon analytics that I had 50 people view the page. I know that from Bitly that 25 of them came from the blog, so I know that another 25 that just searched on Amazon and found it on Amazon without going through the funnel. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Amazon will tell you how, they'll give you Amazon will give you a URL for Amazon at any rate, and it'll tell you how many people came from your referral link, right? So for example, you can make this Bitly as an Amazon referral link, and it'll say 100 people came to your page and 10 bought. Of those 10, it was 5 from your referral link, that kind of thing. And now, once again, it won't be perfect, but it'll give you sort of a rough estimate. But once again, think about it, there's a million pieces of information we could put in here, but it's all going to it's all noise, right? By the way, if you want a really awesome book, read The Signal versus the Noise. Do you know Nate Silver? He writes a blog called 587, I think? And he's like a personal hero, because he predicted both the last 2 elections, like 99% in the United States, and so now everyone loves him. But he wrote a really fun book called Signal versus Noise, which if you're interested in stats but don't really understand math, totally works for you. But nevertheless, you could do this week after week, picking out the key data. And as you do it, now you can use a pivot table, right? And sort of see, well, how are things going? How are they trending? And let's say you write a new blog post. You could say, okay, we have blog post 1, and you'll add another column for blog post 2 in here, and you can see which ones are better at driving traffic and so forth. But yeah, so Google Analytics will only give you a piece of it once you go off-site. Make sense? And we're gonna revisit this afternoon when we talk about Lean Startup right after lunch, and I'll show you how we can use this type of setup to test ideas, which is super powerful. It's the best part of the class. Cool. Okay. Are there other questions? Yeah, what's up?
My title.
Yep.
Blank titles are bad for us.